Welcome to the May 2021 meeting of Membership Minds, and glad to see some new faces here. And hopefully everyone will unmute as they need to join the discussion or ask questions, answer questions, help provide some advice, feedback, anything that you find that you feel like you want to share. So hi, Scott, good to see you.
Good to see you, Tan. Good to see you too, Dan. Nice to be here and speak English. At some point, I might be able to do that.
And this recording is not edited, so just so you know. But
I was just wondering if you were directing your "be careful what you say" at any people in particular on this call, because I know that some of us tend to just, well, Barbara's already pointing to herself.
It's all Barbara.
There are others that need to be a little bit more cautious.
Right. We. I'm directing it at myself mostly. No, but we talk about membership issues around membership programs, membership development, recruitment, retention, onboarding, all that good stuff. So if you have a question, feel free to bring it up, throw it in the chat if you want to have others respond by that method. And things are moving along, I guess. As long as you're not driving and trying to fill your car with gas, everything's good, looking good. Any questions right away before Scott and I just throw some things out there? That was a hint, Scott.
I know. I got that.
Okay.
And nobody dealing with anything in particular they would like the brilliance of this group to chime in on?
Well, since I'm new, I might as well try. I might as well
sure.
Just start right in.
Jump in, Natalia. Thanks.
Actually, I saw your post. Scott and I have had discussions on telemarketing before. So my membership association is it's a medical association, and we're on a calendar year. So hard to believe we actually have to start thinking what we're planning to do for 2022. Because it's going to be there before you know it. We start our whole cycle in September. So we usually take the summer months to plan. So I'd love to get some input of what people are doing that's kind of different than you have done pre-COVID.
Great question.
Or what you're not going to do.
Right.
Yeah,
there's, I've been thinking about that a lot, is things that have changed that will not go back to the way they used to be. I think a lot of what's, we've talked a lot in these meetings about mail, direct mail, and how right now I think it's everything is very reliant on email, and mail is more of the exception rather than the rule. And that's different for many organizations, that they relied on mail for their renewal notices, for lots of communications, for benefits delivery. So I can see that as a big change that most likely will not go back to the way it used to be. And obviously with the meeting side of things, I kind of see virtual as just a part of it all going forward too. There's always going to be more of a hybrid, I guess. Maybe not. Some organizations may just go back to in person and not allow folks to join virtually. I don't know what is it? Anyone else?
Well, I think if they're smart, they'll test.
Sure.
Yeah, Barbara, I think you bring up an interesting point, because I do think that a lot of associations went straight to email, and they have been forever, but they went straight to email in their communications. And I don't think that is optimal. So hopefully many associations will start, if they have the budget and they have the resources, are going to start testing mail again. Hopefully over the last year or so, they've been able to collect more addresses of where people are now, as opposed to just office addresses, because I think we all know that not every association is going to go back to being staffed in person the way that it used to be. There's going to be a lot more virtual, working from home type stuff, but we do need to get in front of these people. And I am a strong believer that email is not the best option. It is an option. It is a viable option, but it is not the best option, because we're all sitting here. We've been on this call for 6 minutes now. We've all probably got 20 emails since we got on this call. So, we're not paying attention to everything we get in email. And as Dan mentioned, there is not a lot of direct mail going out anymore. I can go through my mailbox in about 2 minutes now. So stuff that is there does stand out.
We started, we originally dropped one of our mailings, and we've added it back in. We do two actually during our renewal series. We do a postcard and we do an invoice. And we're fortunate that the majority of our members prefer their home address be used. So we already have that, which is great.
That's great.
They preferred work and we had their home, we sent it to home. And for the people we didn't, I just email to their work instead of mailing it. So we've kind of added that back in a while ago, and we'll continue to
But I
do
think-
those two mailings.
I think you point out a good opportunity though, which is before we mail it to whatever is the address we have on file, we can email and say, we want to keep in touch with you. Tell us your preferred address when we're sending out benefits and whatever. I mean, it's a moment of engagement, not just transaction.
Our chapters, we have like 19 chapters geographically based. And we actually have a signed contract with each of them because we provide them money. And one of their responsibilities is to provide it's not that big a deal, but 4 in-person events every year. Obviously, we haven't been doing that. And we have said virtual events this past year will count. Actually, we decided through the end of this year right now, will count towards meeting your requirement. Going forward, I am interested to see how it plays out, because I know a lot of the chapters are liking the virtual events because they cover really large geographical areas. So people who have never been able to attend an in-person event can now kind of network with people sort of close to them, virtually. So I don't know how it will work in terms of our actual literally each year, how we're gonna, I don't know legally what we can do, or if we can amend and have people sign a new one. I don't know if anyone has faced anything like that before or not.
Why don't you start by asking them what their ideas are?
Oh, I know what they want to do. I just don't know what my board wants to do. We want to make sure they still do in person when they can, because that's really something we can't do. We can't go around the country and have in-person events for them. So that's great. So I would like to see them be able to do both. And I'm sure they'll continue to do both, but I think some of them will want to do virtual only, which is not does not align with our goals for the purpose of the chapter.
Go ahead. Who was that?
That was me.
Okay, go for it,
I was going to say that we have our chapters are the people who actually get the members. We service the chapters. They in turn have the members, and we represent the maritime community. So a lot of them have quote unquote kind of outside jobs, but they all have been very, very anxious to be outside, and they've started doing a lot of events. They started with rather than their monthly meetings where it's usually a speaker, but having, a shrimp boil, it's National Maritime Day, the 21st. So they're having live events with wreath laying, but they're still excited to do in-person events. They want to do both. They want to do hybrid. The concern is, how are they going to be able to do hybrid and come off being professional and having it effective? And right now, that's the big question, is how are we going to get them to be able to switch to virtual, to hybrid? Because I don't think anyone wants to stop the number of people that have been showing up, which has been greater than who comes to their meetings.
Yeah, Cheryl, I think it's interesting. We had a conversation with the Cal SAE regional leadership. They're divided into regions. And so there is volunteer leadership for each region, much like you would have chapters based on geography. And we had a meeting last week, and the ED brought up, all right, what do you guys want to do from a regional perspective? Do you want to have education? Do you want to have just social? Do you want to have a combination of both? And overwhelmingly across California, and I know that's only one state in the entire country, but all of the regional leaders said, we want to get together in person, but we don't want education. We all feel like there is enough education out there right now, not forever, but for the however many upcoming months when we're planning this for like the next quarter or so, we want to do social because we haven't seen each other in so long. We don't need the presentation. So I think that's important from a strategic perspective for associations to think about that, is what are their members looking for? You can still provide education, of course, but are they looking for it in person, or should that in-person time truly be, let's just connect and see each other for a while, you guys, because we haven't done it in so long. And let's continue to do the education virtually just for now. And then eventually we'll go back to being more full-fledged in person. But it's interesting that that's what you guys are doing too, because it seems to be a little bit more prevalent.
Yeah, that has worked out really well for us. And again, they don't want to stop having that education portion because obviously the in-person where it's social, they're still limited to those people who do come out and go to those things.
Yeah, most of our chapters we're doing mostly social anyways, because National provides the education. And I actually kind of prefer them to, like, if you have such a great speaker or a great webinar, let us do it for the entire membership. You don't need to do it just there. So that's another issue. But most of them, especially the smaller ones, tend to do social anyways. So there, I think, but we have a couple that have always done virtual. They've done their in-person, but they've always done virtual. They have a book club and they have this and they do all kinds of stuff. And it's great, but they never get to count those virtual events towards their required events. You know, I mean, 4 in a year is not that hard to do. I mean, you can have 4 people show up. There you go. You did it. So, so I could see maybe some of them saying, why don't our virtual events count towards our required ones? That's coming down the pipe for sure, you know. So we'll
is that because Sharon, they get a better return on investment? Obviously, having something virtual costs next to nothing compared to renting a facility, having to provide food and beverage, you know, you name it. It just helps them financially.
They usually go to a restaurant, happy hour, coffee shop, everyone pays their way. Sometimes the chapter will pay for appetizers or something. So it's just our chapters, they were set up 75 years ago. We wouldn't set them up this way today. They can cover 3 or 4 states. So it's just, so sometimes they'll have like local networking coordinators, you know, in certain areas to just get those groups of people together. But, you know, we don't have many members in Idaho, so they're never going to attend an in-person event. So it's just trying to balance them. And we just don't want them to completely drop. And maybe after this, they won't want to completely drop, meaning after COVID, they won't want to completely drop the in-person because like you guys are saying, people are looking for it now. So that might work out for us, actually. It might work better for us.
One thing we started with COVID is at National, we started doing some webinars and we're international and we're having our first European conference next week. And what I've been trying to do is to let the chapters know, use this as your monthly meeting, use these as a benefit that you could be providing your members. You can advertise this to your members. So we'll see how it goes, but I think that's been successful for us and a new way for us to provide some benefits to get them, because the smaller ones do have a hard time getting someone in and speaking. And we've involved our members getting the speakers for us and choosing a topic. So I'll let you know, it's going to be next week, and it's 3 days, 2 to 3 hours a day, 7 topics. So we'll see what happens.
It's a nice manageable schedule.
Yeah.
Are you allowing them, Cheryl, to if they can't make it live, have the opportunity to have those sessions still available to them for a period of time after the conference.
We are looking at recording it and putting it on. We're going to start a resource library of recordings. So that's our next step with these.
That helped us a lot actually, well, because of COVID, we had to do that. And just because the majority of our members are domestic, we weren't able to get our international members engaged. But since we recorded our sessions, they were able to register and still have access to, I think we gave them up to 90 days after the event. So we still had registrations coming, and that was helpful. And we actually were able to engage more people because they didn't have that barrier of visas, flights, hotels, you name it, the whole gamut. So I think, we're going to have I think personally, we're going to have some component of hybrid. And I'm hoping our association will look at, really what's the return on smaller meetings where you're not really getting a huge financial return on that. Should it just go to virtual, or should there be another type of platform?
Yeah, it's interesting because we're looking at how to get sponsorships in this new format. This particular one, we're not charging any registration fees. Our October one, which is totally virtual this year, we do charge just a small fee for it. But I think that we found our sweet spot to be where we're having it 3, 4, and 5 o'clock European time, which is 9, 10, and 11 o'clock our time. So I have probably about 50-50 of international and domestic people registered already. So, they told us, we asked them what European time would work for them, and most of them seem to feel later in the day would be better. Trying to figure out when they have their dinners, when they stop work. It's been a challenge, but this one's, at least registration wise, seems to be working pretty well.
Scott, that if we ever thought that meetings weren't core to the membership value proposition, these meetings have proven that so many times. Every time we end up talking, we talk about meetings and the interactions that we have with those, especially since COVID. So yeah, it's an interesting how we, how important that is to membership and to really the networking and interactions that you have with others.
But your point about certification is a good one also, that you put in the chat. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think, since most of us probably are familiar with like ASAE, I think they see the value. I hope they're having some conversations about this because, last annual conference that they had huge attendance. I'm not sure what they're doing for CAE points and whether they're actually allowing that for virtual events or not. I think they did sometimes, but not all the times, and only for live online events versus recordings. And so there's, I think there's got a lot of conversation to be had there to try to figure out what are we going to do with our policies related to certification and professional development, knowing that, at least for the last year and a half and probably longer, there's going to be a need to provide virtual as an option. That I just kind of threw that out there because I'm not sure what the answer is.
But like you said, some of the policies are in writing, and especially with chapters and other components, and that may need to be rethought.
Right.
Instead of membership, it might be a governance issue, but in order to serve the members, we have to look at governance.
Right. It's like, it's just, again, you can categorize it under new normal, that it's not going to, it probably needs to change and not go back to what it used to be before.
So, hi, everybody.
Hi, Renee. Good to see you again.
Yeah. We are planning for 2022. And we're having some success with our quote unquote COVID numbers and stuff. So we did our big building awards online again this year. It was pretty successful, but the sponsors have told us that if it doesn't go live next year, not to count on them so much. because they don't, that's the thing. We are an industry built on a
Yeah.
handshake, right? I'll build your house for blah money. Yeah, sure. Okay, great. Yeah. And so every time I now talk to everybody, it's, when are we going to do a live event? And I'm like, yeah, when the doctor says so, that will
Right.
be the time, right?
Yeah.
So I have all these live events planned in my head. They're ready to go, but I need permission to do that. In the meantime, everything we do is, of course, virtual. We've been playing around with different types of platforms. I've done some sort of like every 2 weeks kind of socials online. I've been using this great platform from Germany called Wonder. It's wonder.me. It's completely free and it's actually fun to use. Nothing against Zoom, which apparently we're all fatiguing from now. But anyways, if you want to check it out, it's called wonder.me. And you can set up your own room that you can use over and over again. And it's free for now. So free is good.
Right.
Because
Right. Well,
I am struggling with keeping people to keep their membership because there's no live events, right?
Well,
And
it's
there's, even though people are meeting one another, you know, on virtual platforms, it's like, it's just not the same as when you're actually in front of somebody. And in terms of education, we're really lucky. So even before COVID, pretty much every course that we did and that we do, we always ask the presenters, you know, can we record it and then have it on our we have an e-learning platform, and they pretty much always agreed. So we have always, people who can't make the live version can always pick it up virtually. And we're going to keep continuing that. But there's a lot of them who are like, God, I want my breakfast with my meeting, right? Like, I know, but this is it, right? So we're waiting and we do the best that we can, but there's just, you know, like I do a show every year for the members. We call it the Members Expo. It's an opportunity for members to exhibit their products and services to builders and renovators and developers and so on. And it's like, when are we going to have the expo? When are we going to have the expo? And I'm like, yeah, again, if the good doctor says yes, I'm all over it. However, I will see it as an opportunity, maybe do it as a 2-day event, make some really good money on it.
Yeah. It's a good example of an industry that just, you know, doesn't work with the virtual side of things. You know, you can't build a house virtually. You know,
no, you
doesn't
can't.
happen.
You can only plan it. You can't build it.
That's
that
right.
way, right.
You can't build it. Right.
And you
I
can't
feel
build it
sorry
now
for a lot
because
of
there's
these
no
guys,
wood.
'cause you can only pivot so much. Another word I'm just gonna soon lose in my vocabulary when the time comes. But you know, we are doing what we used to do a scatter site parade called the Parade of Homes, and it was an opportunity for renovators and custom builders to showcase projects that they've done to the public, and the public buys a passport. The money we collect for the passport goes to one of the carpentry programs, and you can go for a day and see all these great places. Well, you can't do that right now. So we're going to try it online. I'll let you know how it goes at the next meeting, because we have had a lot of people signed up, but again, how many people will show up, right? People have been signing up for all kinds of stuff, but then they don't actually, it's so easy to not to bother with a Zoom call, right? So,
yeah,
but
Zoom zone.
I'm keeping as positive as possible, because this just, you know, we're over 50% vaccinated in this province right now in terms of first doses. So including me, and I'm like, we're keeping our fingers crossed. So, but I do think that if you have to tell people that they must be in person doing things to get their points, unfortunately, I don't know, you know, there are some people who say they're never going to go back to their office. I don't know who those strange people are, because I like being able to come in and be around people, but you know, it's happening, right? So, but you know, my struggle right now is convincing people to stay on as members, right? Because there's no events.
Well, Renee,
there are events.
Thanks for bringing us back to membership. I was just thinking, you know, we're really good about talking about events. What are people doing for committee meetings, council meetings? Are we getting back together in person for those? Because that's at least a little bit more manageable, but I don't know how people would feel. I know that if Cal SAE said to me right now, hey, Scott, we're having this meeting in person, I'd have to give a lot of thought to whether I'm going in person or not. So what are people doing more in person for council and committee meetings, chapter meetings, those kind of things? Or are we still in a place where we're everybody's staying home and just Zoom on in?
We're
So we're
zooming
not
on
allowed
in
to.
until
So,
November.
just so you know, so we are doing everything virtual right now. And apparently first week of June, we're going to find out if this changes.
We're doing everything virtually.
Our
I mean-
committees and task forces have been fully virtual for years.
Ours too, yeah.
Our normal.
Yeah, just the board meetings we used to have like 4 board meetings a year that were in person, and now those have been virtual.
Yeah, same for us. I think the board more than anything else is itching to get back to in-person. Our members don't seem particularly bothered, honestly. There are some that are wanting that in-person meeting again, but most of them are loving not having to travel and, be in and out of things as they want. And, with our conference, they get access to all the sessions recorded for up to a year. So there's a lot of benefit to them staying this way. Whether that's going to happen long-term or not, hard to tell, but we'll see.
Yeah, we've gone virtual also, and being international, it's given us the opportunity to have our international members be able to do a little bit more volunteering and be on some of our committees. But as I said, our chapters are really itching, but they do big social events from, clay shoots and shrimperoos and whatever. So those are going live and starting to happen, but all of our meetings are virtual.
We're having our councils are meeting virtually, as well as our board, but our first in-person board meeting and council retreats are happening in November, fingers crossed. And so we're starting off big time because, for council retreats, they're, all day retreats. That's a lot of time to put agendas together, but our council members are very excited to get back together and kind of come up with a plan. When you're talking about engagement, I've asked our council leaderships to come up with ways to engage with particularly more junior members in terms of soft skills. So we've had one council do a webinar on professional development. Another one's looking at, mentoring. So we're trying to kind of go away with not so much scientific heavy case or, medically, it's really sharpen up your soft skills during this period of time. What's the difference between a resume versus a CV? And that has actually been really helpful. And plus two, from an aspect of longevity, we can stick that in our learning hub for a much longer time than, say, a scientific document where it could change based on what pops up or what new advancements. And that's been helpful. It's been a little hard to get our volunteers to shift gears, but our younger members appreciate it. And I think that's going to help us continue to grow our younger members. And that's obviously who's going to stick around much further. So we're really investing in future members.
Question, are these events still appealing only to members, or is it also all of the not yet members who attended things last year?
It depends on what event we have. So if I think this is something that would be very appropriate, and this gives me an opportunity to create a funnel for new members or get them into our database for prospecting, we'll open it because it's obviously easier for us. I mean, it costs less money to do that than trying to prospect a member that I would consider qualified. And that's been helpful, following up with them, just checking in. And, when I think someone mentioned, sponsorship opportunities, offering opportunities for sponsors to be involved in webinars, putting their name out there. I think that really has a lot more, I don't know what percentage of everyone's members attend their annual meeting. It varies, but we know that not 100% of our members attend our in-person meetings even before COVID.
So it's just after 1 o'clock. We usually go about 10 minutes over, 5-10 minutes over. So we can continue the discussion, but I just want to make sure people know just for their own schedules. But one of the things that we do at my organization, FMI, where we have things called share groups, where we've actually, because it's a trade association and companies are the members, some of the companies want to get together with like custom companies, and but that aren't competitors, and they want to share information, like very detailed, in-depth information, like their financials, sales, things like that. And they get really deep into what they're doing and sharing, because they want to improve their company, but also help others with what they're doing with their business. So and our share groups have been virtual for the past year and some months now, when they've always wanted to get together in person, especially because they'll do store tours. They'll go around the stores in person to see what that's all about. So they're very anxious to do that. In fact, I am traveling all of October, as far as I can tell now, because basically once everyone thinks that fall is the time that in-person happens again, they've all scheduled all their meetings in the same month. So I will be on the road a lot if that really does happen. So it depends on the industry. Renee was talking about, homes. You can't build a home, and those expos, they actually build homes. Like they build a house right there in the expo. So
exactly. And people want me to come visit them. And they want to do little events there. And even if it's only an event of 10, that's 10 more people that come and see their showroom or something, right? And there still will be some competition. We don't have exclusivity in membership for only one renovator or one flooring contractor. But I mean, they all want to see what everyone's doing, because they all are hoping they'll get an edge somewhere along the way.
That's right. Yeah.
And you can't do that virtually.
But for the individual membership organizations, I see a lot of, hybrid type of, or, other opportunities that might help. So.
I promise when I can put on my first event, I will be happy to let you know how it went.
All right.
We're really hoping by June I can truly do at least some small event. I'm going to focus on members first and non-members afterwards.
Well, it's interesting because one of our kind of sister organizations has decided to do an online, or not in-person 3-day event. And we all kind of were surprised, thinking, well, and they're going to do it in June. And I was just like, wow, I'm not sure that's going to work. And in fact, most of the content that they were going to present, we've already done virtually over the last year through webinars with the same person that's actually, speaking. So I'm taking it as an opportunity. Maybe I should reach out and say, hey, don't spend money on hotel and travel and meals and all that. Just, watch our recordings. There's going to be some back and forth with that. There's advantages and disadvantages to as we go forward, especially if they try to have in-person events soon versus maybe, once when everything calms down even further. So interesting strategies that we can always look at, opportunities here and there. Yeah, Sandra.
I had a question, Renee mentioned and some other people about doing events and focusing on members first. And I was wondering, I think there's, depending on the market and the content, there is a lot of pent-up demand for socialization. I mean, it's a human thing.
Yep.
So I'm wondering, I would think that there's so much pent-up demand for the right content and the right opportunity. And the content might be the menu or the golf course. It doesn't have to be education. I would think that would be the unique selling proposition to get them to join. It's like, I'm so desperate to network, here's my dues. Unless you, I mean.
Oh, if I could only do that, Sandra, because our board has to approve those members first. But we are doing a golf tournament September the 8th. We're getting a little more leeway than we had, last year. It's sold out. So I would much rather give members the opportunity to book their foursomes, book their sponsorships. There will always be some non-members, like their customers they bring. Don't you worry. I will be chatting with them on the golf course. But I'm thinking I honestly believe our members have to come first. We have to show them the love, so to speak. And from there, the non-members come, truly.
Yeah, it's unfortunately you have to have a review process. It's like, how about a review process in person?
Well, you know what it is? I'll tell you what it is, Sandra. It's because in this province of Canada, this group is very fussy about who they let in, because nobody wants to have a fly-by-night builder, right? No one wants to look bad. So we do have some checks and balances to make sure that we're not getting just anybody. It's not a perfect system, but you know, and I've been here 18 and a half years, knock on wood, pretty much it keeps out the bad ones. So I don't get a lot of complaints.
Yeah, people know what works for them. I just know that I come from printing, and it's been an essential. So people have been, and there's been no events for 18 months. And, you know, there's a couple of the print shows are in the top 100. There's nobody looking to spend $1 million on a piece of equipment right now. They have plenty of capacity. What they want is they want to go out to dinner. They want to go out to drinks. They want to hug people.
And hence why the golf tournament is now sold out, basically. So
Congratulations.
I also think that what we need to do is try to make some of our virtual meetings a little bit more interactive. Like I'm planning on having people join a little earlier, and depending upon where they are, you know, have a cup of coffee or a Bloody Mary. And as they sign on, have them go into a breakout room. And as soon as there are 10 to 15 people in the room, they're going to go into another breakout room. So kind of have the feel of when you're having, you know, that breakfast or that buffet, whatever, before a meeting starts, and see if they can just interact. No agenda, just, you know, kind of meet each other. So again, trying to get a little bit more informal networking during these meetings.
So go to wonder.me and take a look at their platform. It's because that's what it does. Once there's so many in a circle, like you can have 1,500 join the room. And then as people go talk to one another, they make a circle. And once they hit 15, you have to go out, you know, that's it. You got to get another circle going.
Cool.
And another circle going. And it's a lot of fun. Honestly, try it out. Zoom. And also allows you broadcast capabilities. So for instance, you know, it gives someone the opportunity to say, hey, just to let you know, these are the folks here today. You know, here are some of the rules on how to use the program, you know, and have fun, everybody. And then you leave the broadcast, and then you leave people to their own devices.
Cool.
And I always have an icebreaker question, like, what was the last book you read? Who's your favorite cartoon character? And oh my gosh, the amount of chit chat that goes on is amazing. So I just,
excellent.
Wonder.me.
Got it.
Well, so I think we're at 10 minutes after, and if you're wondering when it ends, I think it is now. But no, I'm looking forward to joining Renee's golf tournament so I can get some hugs and really hug some folks there. But no, I just want to say thank you for everyone and for participating today. If you have other questions or you want to, you know, feel free, if you're on LinkedIn, send some, you know, messages back and forth to me, and I'll put together a group, or we can put them to those things together for the next meeting, which is the third Tuesday of the month in June, which is the 15th. So June 15th is our next one, 12:30 Eastern. Again, thank you everyone, and great to see these new faces here, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks everybody.
Bye everybody.